You to the Wednesday, March 19th, 7 p.m. meeting of the Committee on Labor, Parks, Planning, and Housing. Would you all please rise and join Legislator Catherine Parker in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. We have a quorum in the presence of Board Chair Michael Kaplowitz, Majority Leader Catherine Borgia, Legislator Catherine Parker, and Legislator Michael Smith. We're also pleased to be joined by Legislator Ben Boykin and Legislator Sheila Marcotte. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is a public hearing. We are here to listen to you. We do have a couple of ground rules when we hold our public hearings. This is the board chamber. This is an official meeting. So we do ask that you observe decorum. We don't clap, we don't boo, we don't cheer, we don't jeer. We all just listen respectfully. Everybody will have 3 minutes to speak. Wendy Weil down here will be doing the timing. And when you hear the beep, please finish your sentence. And if you don't hear the beep, we'll give you a gentle reminder. But it's kind of important that we all stick to the 3-minute time, because when there are a lot of folks, if we all take an extra minute, that's an extra hour. So having said that, the only other item we have is normally we try to keep signs down during our public hearings because it distracts the people behind you. But if you want to take a moment, I see a lot of signs. If you want to hold your signs up so we can all see them. If you want to give a big cheer, feel free to give a big cheer. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, and we'll get started. The other thing that we normally do when we have public hearings is we try to accommodate people who are here with small children who might need to get them home to do homework. So I would ask if there are any children here who would like to speak, we will put you to the head of the line. Or are there any parents or coaches of children who would like to get them out in a reasonable time who would like to speak? Okay, well then we'll just go in order and welcome everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call 5 speakers at a time. If you'll come down this aisle, around the rope there, and just wait over there, and we'll call your name, and you can speak from right here. Our first 5 speakers, Quabina Manu, Anthony Bonaviso, and forgive me if I mangled names or handwriting, Louis Carone, Joseph Greco, and Miguel Diaz. They're on. Quabina.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you, Mr. Kapolis and Mike Kaplowitz. I just want you all to know that what is taking place in Playland now affects a lot of members, a lot of workers, human faces. No matter what happens, if SPI gets the deal, we just want to make sure that you make your decisions based on the fact that SPI can coexist with the workers that are at Playland now. They can still be union members from CSEA, enjoy benefits from CSEA, and enjoy a pension with the New York State retirement, just like you all do. I just want to point out some facts. The workers at Playland have had to work under very stressful conditions for the past 4 years under the cloud of the park closing down. The workers have been asked and been told to look for jobs elsewhere. Yet they continue to perform their daily responsibilities with a clear mind under these hard conditions and circumstances. County personnel will always be needed on site to make repairs, no matter who runs the park. The county's golf courses are a perfect example that comes to mind. No other county-owned park has non-county employees performing them or maintaining the work there. Playland has always been maintained by county employees. Playland has suffered massive loss of manpower over the past few years, 50%, symbolizing 23 workers to be precise. They are indeed performing more with less. Playland, as we speak, do not have the needed personnel nor equipment to perform their jobs since the idea of privatization became somewhat of a reality. There used to be one supervisor per an 8-trade crew and one in the ice rink. Playland now can only boast of 2 supervisors in the entire massive park. Some of these workers sign state safety sheets that make them responsible for the rides. There used to be 14 ride mechanics signing off on 49 rides. Today, there are only 6 left to inspect the same amount of rides. Playland used to have 2 men on the night shift to maintain and handle ride breakdowns, as well as close the park. 1 person is left to do that now. Can I use your time, please, to finish it?
Okay.
Historically, 1 mechanic and
3 minutes, please.
1 mechanic and 1 electrician has always manned the mid and night shifts. Just today, Playland decided it will only be an electrician on duty. We are putting the people who patronize Playland at risk. This should not happen. We have men with experience that can do the job. Let us continue to make them do it. In concluding, I plead with each and every one of you on this honorable board to consider the fact that SPI can coexist with the current employees of Playland, no matter what the circumstances might be. We want these workers who are CSEA members to continue to enjoy the benefits of being union workers, participating in the New York State retirement system, just as you, Board of Legislators. Your decisions and votes must not be partisan, must not be a partisan one. It should be a human decision and a nonpartisan vote. Thank you, and may the big man above help you all.
Thank you. If you'd like to leave your remarks with Wendy, we can also enter them in the record. Thank you. Louis Carone, please. Okay. Thank you. Joseph Greco. Miguel Diaz. Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Next 5 speakers. Please come down this aisle. Lawrence McGowan. Jim Girolio. Did I get that right? I apologize. Michael Kaufman and John Mueller. When do you reset the timer? Lawrence? Okay. Yeah, you're giving your time to someone else? Yes. Sure. Oh, Jim Grolio. I'm sorry, Jim. I apologize.
Hello, my name is Jim Grolio. I grew up at the corner of Rosemary and Roosevelt, so I have a lot of insight to living next to Playland. And there used to be a gate directly across the street from my house, and it became a problem. It was good for the people in the neighborhood, but what you get is when the park gets busy, and even when it's not, people that want to visit employees of the park and stuff, they come into the neighborhood and they just, you know, especially if someone from the neighborhood leaves their car out, they see another car there and they just feel they can park there. And then as a neighbor, you don't want to call and get everyone in the neighborhood tickets, but it ends up being a problem. There ends up garbage from it, and a lot of other things, people coming through the paths and walking by your house. We lost many bicycles and things along that line as a child. And also, I moved. I still live in Rye, but I moved across, this is for you, Catherine, over to Maple Avenue. And at Maple Avenue, I have the Gagliardo ball field in my backyard. So I know what it's like growing up next to some fields. And while I like the Little League and I enjoy the sounds of it, I'm not too certain that I would like to hear them till 10 o'clock at night. And they don't blow whistles and things like that for the coaches, and having multiple games going on at once. And I just feel that it's not fair to the neighborhood to change it to putting something so close to the neighborhood. You will hear it constantly till 10 o'clock, and it's not going to be just several months for the year. It's going to be much longer than Playland's open, and those people are going to have to suffer to it. I mean, they're happy noises, but after a while, it's not so happy when you're sitting in your living room listening to it for 5-6 months at a time. Now, I appreciate that there's a need for field space for all the kids that are here, but this is not the place to build it. It needs to be built someplace more industrial, where it's not bothering neighborhoods and devaluing people's homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Kaufman? Thank you, sir.
I thank you for the opportunity to speak at the hearing today. My name is Michael Kaufman. I live in Hartsdale, and I'm treasurer of the Friends of Edith Reed Wildlife Sanctuary, and I'm here representing the board. As you know, access to Reed is through the Playland parking lot. The area known as the Shore Zone separates Reed from Playland, and that's what I'd like to discuss. I'm here because of our concern that SPI may have changed its plan from part-time use of the Shore Zone to full-time parking. Since SPI has not responded to our correspondence or addressed our concern at meetings, I'm requesting that the Board of Legislators support Reed and mandate that SPI keep to their original plan. The specifics of that plan follow. On pages 2, 5, and 211 of the SPI plan that was submitted to the county, it stated that the Shore Zone would be an open program area, a seasonal kayak concession, and a meadow. The plan acknowledged that the area is used as a nesting area for the killdeer species of bird in the springtime and should continue to do so. The plan also indicated that the county uses part of the area for overflow parking on busy holiday weekends, such as July 4th and Labor Day, and that they might continue that practice. SBI also stated that they would move the dumpsters from the area to stop the effluent leaching into the Sound and leaching into Nursing Lake. At the time of the application, SBI leadership requested the Reed Board support their application based on the environmentally sound plan for Sound Shore, for the Shore Zone that I just described. So in conclusion, I'm requesting, or we are requesting, that the board require SPI to keep to the original plan for the Shore Zone. Thank you.
Thank you. John Muller?
Thank you.
Is Mr. Muller here? All right. Our next 5 speakers will be Bilio Feliz, Linda Torino, again, forgive me with the names, Deirdre Curran, Michaelvisi, and Brooke Packard. Bilio? Is Bilio here? You're up. All right, Linda?
Good evening, and I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Linda Torino, and in full disclosure, I work for the Greenwich Water Club and Beacon Point Marine, so I've had Marine in my family since I was born. My father also worked at Captain John's Fishing Concession, which was located opposite the lake, and I spent every Saturday and Sunday at Playland, so I pretty much know the entire park inside and out. When I wasn't working with my dad, I was exploring the woods. I would just like to say that no one here is looking to take anything away from the kids. There is a desperate need for field space. I think every municipality wishes they had indoor and outdoor space that they could be flexible with and develop programs. It is hard, especially when you have a very condensed area. This plan to build a field house and indoor fields is a great idea. However, not at Playland. There needs to be another area found. There is plenty of land that can be looked at, buildings that can be demoed and land developed, but not taking away the parking at Playland. Those parking lots would be filled, and I'm going back to when I was 5 and 6 years old. Those parking lots would be filled to the brim, to the point where it had to go down past the lake and into the back fields by the sanctuary. I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of cars, especially when they had fireworks. So no one is looking to take anything away from the kids, but a better plan has to come up. I'd like to see Playland developed a little bit more. I'd like to see a kayak area. I'd like to see the picnic area along the lake house be developed a little bit more. I'd like to see a jet ski ramp. There's 10 things off the top of my head that I could see that could be put down there. Even a crew house. I don't know if there'd be enough room to crew in the lake, but at least a place to practice, some kind of an indoor tank somewhere where people could practice crew in the wintertime. There's tons of things that could be done. You also have to protect people's rights. Caveat emptor. People bought those houses around Playland years ago. They knew what they were getting into, and people have spoken about that. But you can't take away their right that they have their views and put a building there that's going to take that away. You have to be careful of everyone. I see a lot of holes in this plan. I have not heard anything about allowing municipalities to use this building, if there's going to be any kind of fees that could be waived because municipalities just don't have the money. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Deirdre. So you are taking your time and Belio's time? Yes. All right, 6 minutes on the clock, please.
I could go longer. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us here. I echo what Linda said. My first name is Deirdre. My last name is Curran. I currently live in Port Chester. I lived in Rye for a while. I grew up in Westchester. I went to Playland as a kid, and I spent 5 summers working at the park as a teenager, and in the wintertime, I worked in the ice rink. I know that park very well, and I also do understand fully that when that park is busy, which is what we should all want, that entire parking lot is necessary. The whole thing. Not half of it, not 40% of it, not 60% of it. The whole thing isn't enough. There's going to be overflow parking. Edith Reed should be very worried because that's not going to be once in a while. It's going to be a regular thing, far more often than it ever was. I was at the walkthrough yesterday. When you get the visual on the layout of this monstrosity, they can parse words all they want and they can count all they want about how many parking spaces. It's almost 50% of the lot that's going to be gone. The amusement park will never be able to survive. It's not adequate parking for the beach, the pool, and the amusement park in the summer. It is not an appropriate place for permanent construction of this size. You may need fields. You may want an indoor sports facility. The communities have to work together to find somewhere else to put it. It's a flood zone. It's 50 yards away from residential neighborhoods. I doubt anybody that's here to support sustainable Playland would want this going in less than 100 yards from their own house. I dare any of you to come up here and say that you think that would be great for your neighborhood, because it wouldn't be. Playland was laid out when it was originally designed to have buffer zones between the activity and the neighborhood. The parking lot is one of those buffer zones to separate everything that's going on at the amusement park from the residential neighborhood. If you build this there, you're taking away one of the elements of the design of the park. That's the wrong thing to do. There are concerns about whether or not any of the money coming from this entity is even going back into Playland. I listened to Mr. McCloud on Tuesday last week, and he basically said that by the time they've paid their operating expenses and their investment, they're not putting any money back into capital improvements for the park. Minimal at best. Sounds to me like Central Amusements is footing the entire bill to come up with the revenue to restore that park. Doesn't sound very fair to Central Amusements to me, that somebody else gets to have tax-free property in the parking lot and they don't have to put any money back into the park. What's the point of having them there? Why are they there? It's already a year-round entity. We have an ice rink in the winter. There are plenty of creative things you could do to bring more activity year-round. You don't need to build something this huge that will never go away. It's supposedly a gift. They're going to hand it back to us after 10 years of use, and we're going to be responsible for fixing all the wear and tear. And then if anything goes wrong, we're responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep for the rest of forever. We've had a tremendous amount of expense down there fixing the ice rink and the boardwalk. It's a huge expense. Why would we want to build something else this enormous, this expensive, in a park where we already really can't take care of the structures we have? The last thing I want to say is we've got a whole bunch of very brave people sitting here that can't get up and talk because they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs. And we need to thank every one of them because they've been holding that park together literally with bubble gum and rubber bands for years. They're never given the money that they need or the budget that they need. And they still maintain that park. They still keep it safe. They take care of those rides. These guys love that park. That park is going to die without these guys. They're not replaceable. And when I had a walkthrough with Kim Morkway last May, and I asked him, what happens to the people who work here if you guys come in? The only question he answered in an entire hour was that question, and his answer was very quick. And his answer to me was, well, we don't work with unions. So if Sustainable Playland comes in, we lose years of experience and skill that's handed down from generation to generation of the guys that work there. They're the ones that know how to take care of this park. They're the ones that know all the idiosyncrasies of all those classic rides. You can't just get anybody to come in and take care of that park and fix it. And if Sustainable Playland comes in, we lose years of it. We cannot replace those guys. This is a great idea for somewhere else. It's a great idea for somebody to do on private property where they pay taxes. God bless them, that's capitalism. There's a need for it. You build it, people will come, make your money. I'm not going to subsidize it as a Westchester County taxpayer. That's not my problem. Thank you.
Michael?
Good evening. Hello again. I'm Michaelvisi of Redfield Street in Rye. I'm going to echo some of the statements that Deirdre just made. As many of you are aware, I am opposed to the Playland Improvement Plan submitted by SPI. I don't know how many of the legislatures attended the Parks, Labor, and Housing Committee meeting on Tuesday of 3/11 with SPI, or how many of you saw the video broadcast, but it is worth watching, all 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 18 seconds. I also attended yesterday's site visit. At the site visit, Mr. Markway mentioned a few sites akin to the Playland Improvement Plan, one of those being Brooklyn Bridge Park. That's interesting because the Brooklyn Heights Association sued Mayor Bloomberg and New York State Parks for skirting alienation issues and won. At the committee meeting of 3/11, Mr. McCloud of SPI stated that Playland Sports Incorporated, the sole operator of the field zone that includes the newly reduced size field house, would contribute substantially less funding to preserving the amusement area so they can recoup their capital investment. Substantially less than what? Would it only be the rent for leasing the space? I don't know how it is an integral part of the plan if it is not contributing to the bottom line, while Central Amusements would bear the brunt of the funding. So a park they want to operate 12 months a year is still only getting financial support for the 3 months the amusement area is open. I don't get it. I thought the whole idea of the RFP process was to revitalize Playland. If Playland Sports is not willing to invest in the amusement zone and only in their own plan for financial gain, why do we need them? If Central Amusements is willing to take the risk on return of investment and financially commit to revitalizing the amusement and beach areas, then why do we even need SPI? Mr. McCloud even stated in the meeting that if you just want to preserve the amusement area and don't want SPI, just call Central Amusements. Central Amusements was a finalist from the original RFP, and they feel they can bring the luster of Playland to make it profitable, and they are willing to spend the money to do so. He goes on to say that the issue of capital is fascinating. and that SPI judges Central Amusements as the best choice to run the amusement park. Central Amusements has the experience and the financial wherewithal to do so. So when it comes time to vote, vote no on SPI. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. And while Brooke is coming up, will the following five folks please come down the aisle? Kenneth Ball, George Sheba, Yoly Brolio, Joe Porter, and Michael McCaul.
Thank you, legislators, for taking the time to hear from the residents regarding our beloved Playland. The big question is Playland for all the people of Westchester, or is it for just a few people? I am a resident of Rye. I live so close to Playland that summer is marked by the delightful random toots from the train at Kittyland. Every year, at the 4th of July, as the Playland parking lot gets shut down because of space issues, my husband and I go out to the parkway to find cars filled with families who look tired and disappointed. Many have driven for hours and waited in traffic jams only to be shut out. As a random act of kindness, we find a few cars and offer them parking in our driveway. It's reality, folks. Playland is a mecca for families who cannot afford to go to Great Adventure. A trip to Disney or a boutique soccer camp is a far distant dream. One year, a single mother from Mount Vernon shared with us that this was her first day off in over 2 weeks. She was traveling with her 3 children and insisted that we accept a gift of thanks for the parking space because that simple gesture made the promise of fireworks to her children a reality. The gift she had to offer us was a package of discount soap. That was the best she could offer, and she offered it to us with tears. The construction of a field house would mean Playland is no longer for taxpayers like this single mother. The construction of a field house changes the heritage of Playland as a county park, making this a moral issue, a deeply troubling moral issue. What is most disturbing is that on page 43 of SPI's improvement plan is the targeting of Playland Sports' marketing feasibility study. Quote, the study area also included communities east of White Plains, south of Greenwich, and north of New Rochelle. Let us unpack that. The people of New Rochelle, Yonkers, and Mount Vernon were not included as potential users of the fieldhouse. Sustainable Playland cut out the population of 3 major cities, nearly 340,000 county residents, when it came to planning the future of a county park. With this limited catchment study as its metric, SPI is cynically using people with means to pay for the field house and thereby fund Playland, a public amenity. The blasphemy of this plan is that it elbows out the very public it is supposed to serve. The land is held hostage and not free to be used by county taxpayers of every economic stripe. SPI's improvement plan does not include an employment prospectus. Summer employment at Playland is almost a rite of passage in certain communities. I've seen the crowds at the annual job fair with my daughter who worked there for a summer, and I've picked up earnest college students at the train station who are waiting for public transportation and tell me they travel 2 hours each way to work an 8 to 10 hour shift at Playland. That job is the difference between another semester at college or in some cases whether there's enough food at the table. What does the field house offer this population? There's a lot of discussion about what a field house would mean to the residents of Rye in terms of quality of life, bad, and our property values, worse. What desperately needs to get out to the residents of Westchester County is how Sustainable Playland has pushed forward without any input from those who actually use Playland. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kenneth Ball?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ken Ball. I'm 46 years a neighbor of Playland. I'm opposed to the SPI plan to build a 2-acre field house in a flood zone close to neighborhoods' property. It reduces our property values and quality of life. It is a $12 million climate-controlled, energy-consuming cocoon for a group of young people unwilling to play outdoor sports outdoors. I played field hockey for Rye on the shore zone fields. It would be an alien structure in an area with a history of flooding and severe storm damage. It has no synergy with the seaside amusement park. It is a bad deal for county taxpayers who will own this building. We assume all the risks. Will it be valued at $12 million on the county books when it is only worth $6 million on dry land? According to the vision plan, it has a low cash to capital ratio. I guess we'll find that out when you get to the money part of this study. What will the county do if Playland Sports pulls out? It has no known alternative uses. Is there a market for a used waterproof warehouse-type building? Is the residual scrap metal value sufficient to cover the cost of its removal? Repairs to the damage from Sandy are being paid for by FEMA. What happens if the field house is damaged by another hurricane? Do you expect the federal government to bail us out again? SBI has no experience in running a park. The county should hire Central Amusements as the prime contractor to run the whole operation. They have proven experience. Doing so would eliminate an unnecessary level of management cost and decrease risk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. George.
George Sherba.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Sherba.
Sherba, yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. George Sherba, 16 Adelaide Street, Rye, New York. I've been here before, and I've talked at the City of Rye Council meeting, but this evening I come to you on a topic of public safety and first responder concerns. This is regarding the old field house and the new proposed field house. As a current 40-year member of the Portchester Fire Department, as a past chief of the Portchester Fire Department and current deputy chief of the Portchester Fire Department, as well as an ex-captain of the Hook and Ladder Company, I have serious concerns in reference to the size and location of this field house and its plans, both past and current. The proposed structure, if allowed to be built, is too close to the existing maintenance buildings, especially the large maintenance building. SPI claims there is 60 feet between the proposed building when the actual measurement is 53 feet. Parking should not be allowed against the structure. The current plan proposes parking on all sides of the field house against the structure. The road between the maintenance building and the proposed field house is 24 feet wide. The jack stabilizer span of a typical ladder truck, including the truck, is 24 feet wide. And the parking spaces against the building are going to be approximately 18 to 20 feet long. I measured them. This will prove to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to safely ladder the structure if and when needed. Modern fire apparatus are very large and require a large turning radius and working area. Therefore, in the event of a fire, the apparatus will be directly in the collapse zone and will put first responders and the public in harm's way. On the remaining three sides of the structure, roof access will prove to be difficult due to the parking against the structure and the general layout of other parking close to that structure. The maintenance buildings are to remain. All are in use at this time and very active for most of the year. As an example, there are large trucks delivering materials and supplies, workers coming and going from the park, and golf carts, pickup trucks, dump trucks. This, along with the new proposed parking, will create complete traffic choke points. As of today, the Rye Fire Department, which is the first due fire department, has not been contacted or consulted with reference to any of these matters. If the Rye Fire Department is not the first due fire department, Westchester County has a fire brigade. They can provide fire protection, and they should be contacted ASAP. This latest plan should be rejected until properly vetted by the fire service. Respectfully yours.
Thank you, Mr. Sherba. If you'd like to leave a copy of your remarks, great. Thank you, sir. Yoly?
Good evening, honorable legislators and chairman. My name is Yoly Sherba Brolio. I spent most of my life in Westchester County, and I live in Virginia now. And I want to speak to a matter very near and dear to my heart, and that concerns the environment. During the original construction, phase 2 of the Playland parking lot, which is currently the proposed field zone plan, A large excavator or a crane was utilized to fill in the tidal marsh to complete the parking lot. After a weekend off, when the work was to resume, the crane was missing. It was discovered later that it had sunk in the marsh. Deemed to be too expensive to raise and salvage, it was abandoned and scrapped in place. It remains there, buried today, somewhere in the field zone area. This little problem raises some questions for me. Do you consider this an environmental concern? Will it cause a problem, if this project is approved, for the placement of pilings needed to stabilize the soil to support the field house? Will it create a problem for the placement of many, many anchors needed to hold the floor in place from the upward tidal pressure? This is a flood zone we're talking about. What else is under that parking lot? The newest and largest maintenance building, which went up in '92, stands at the southern edge of all the maintenance sheds. The building height is 28 or 29 feet, not 40 feet as originally stated by SPI. Immediately next to that are the refueling tanks. Tank number 1 has a 2,000-gallon capacity for gas. Number 2 has a 1,000-gallon capacity for diesel. These tanks currently meet New York State standards, which raises another set of questions for me. Why were the old tanks replaced? Were they leaking? Were they removed? Were they abandoned and filled with maybe sand or water for ballast? Was there any contamination? Was there soil remediation? Was it required? We don't know the answers to this. And my last questions for now. If there is indeed contamination present, will this site be remediated? Will the field house be raised on stilts, similar to the affordable housing proposal on county land, North Street and Theodore Fremd, to avoid environmental issues? Will this Board of Legislators vote to raise the field house to avoid these concerns? This would raise the height an additional 10 to 15 feet above the 35 feet stated by SPI? Or will you do what I respectfully request and vote no on this project? Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Porter, please.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Legislators, thank you. My name is Joe Porter, 599 Midland in Rye, and as I've said in previous meetings, I applaud what CPI is trying to do because of the values that they bring to the process and they espouse. Having said that, by the way, these comments address three things. One is the size of the field house. The other is the site plan for the project. And the third is there's some suggestions about collaboration and moving forward on this. I'm only going to address the first one, which is the field house. The field house is really too big for that site. The site is a National Historic Landmark, and that involves not only the architecture, which is extremely important, in bad repair, and is critical need of restoration, but it includes the design of the park, the wonderful connection between the boardwalk and the mall. It's a classic design, one of the best in the country, and one of the oldest in the country. It's concise, it's compact, it's extremely important. The landscape is another element of the historic value. And then a final element is that Playland, the amusement area, sits in a broader environmental envelope that's made up by the sound, by the wetlands, by the bluffs. And the parking lot, which is now a parking lot, is still reminiscent of a period of time when that was wetlands and water. The dilemma is, how do you put a building that size in that kind of a historic context, and you really can't. It's too big to do that. It's also the architecture and the site plan have nothing to do with the historic architecture and have nothing to do with that concise, connected pattern that has made Playland famous. Now, the Secretary of the Interior developed guidelines in 1976 to lead the preservation of historic places. And those first guidelines were for architecture. And now a lot of communities have historic architectural guidelines, but they don't have the broader, what the Secretary of Interior refers to as cultural landscape guidelines. In 1992, the Secretary of the Interior published another set of guidelines that deal with historic places. And it deals with the vegetation, the geologic form, the context. And my only point is, not only are the buildings covered with Secretary of the Interior guidelines, the rest of the site, including the open space that is now a parking lot, are covered by those guidelines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. While Michael comes up to speak, will the following people please come down? Robert Porto, Bailey Flood, Douglas French, and Mary Beth Lubeck. If you would all come down to your left. And Michael, please. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike McCaul. I'm here on behalf of the Rye Town Supervisor, Joe Carvin. Before I read a letter that he delivered to me and a good friend of mine, Chris O'Callahan, a longtime Rye resident, I wanted to give you a brief background on myself. I am a 20-plus year resident of Westchester County, grew up in northern Westchester, fondly remember visiting Playland as a child, and now I'm entering my 9th year as a volunteer lacrosse coach in the Rye Youth Lacrosse Program. Without further ado, I'm going to relay Joe's messages here. Dear County Board of Legislators, I apologize for not being here in person tonight, but unfortunately I had a prior commitment and am unable to attend. I have therefore asked my good friend Mike McCaul and Chris O'Callahan to read my vote of confidence into record. I want to go on record as strongly recommending that you approve the SBI proposal for Playland. I served on the committee that reviewed the proposals and was pleased to recommend a proposal that has achieved a number of competing objectives. The SBI proposal enhances the quality of the use of the space, but at the same time maintains much of the tradition of the park by keeping a core set of historical rides intact. In addition to this, it improves the green footprint, which is important from an environmental perspective. Finally, it does all this under a model scheme of public-private cooperation that saves the taxpayer substantial monies while generating considerable and much-needed capital investment in the park. If I'm honest, when I served on the committee to review proposals, I initially felt that it was an unnecessary step that prolonged the time of reckoning. I was proven wrong. The lengthy solicitation associated with the bids process generated a number of competing proposals on which SPI's proposal was far and away the best. I was quite frankly shocked at the caliber of the talent that SPI was able to pull together in such a short period of time. In my view, the process that ended with the SPI proposal was pure government genius. This is precisely the kind of proposal we need if we are ever going to secure a cost-effective investment in deteriorating infrastructure that is crying out for maintenance and upgrades. As town supervisor of the town of Rye, we are attempting to build on this model to encourage investment in the jewel that is Rye Town Park. For far too long, predecessor governments has foregone much-needed investment in historical park infrastructure. Now, as that infrastructure continues to crumble before our eyes, the only way that cash-strapped local governments can support the park are going to be able to meet required capital expenditures is through private-public partnerships like the one the county has developed with SPI. Indeed, I'm so confident in the capability and capacity of the SPI team, I'm anxious for you to move forward with their proposal on the contract so you give serious consideration to also extending their footprint beyond Playland's boundaries in incorporation with similar green holistic efforts as the one with the Rye Town Park. Sincerely, Joe Carvin. As a local member of the business community as well, I think this is an extremely beneficial project, and I can see the support from our local youth that this is something that everybody should strongly consider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Sorry I got your last name Incorrect. All right, Robert, please. Robert Porto.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm sorry, but my name is Robert Porto, and I live in Harrison. That's okay. You know, it's very hard for me to get up here and speak publicly, so realize that it is a labor of love, if you would. You know, I'm a little disappointed that a lot of the legislators aren't here tonight, and I hope you convey to them that, you know, we had a lot of passionate speakers tonight, especially, thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz, please convey to them. I'd like to see Playland stay an amusement park and an entertainment center, not a sports park or walking park. We have many sports parks in Westchester. We also have many walking areas and general parks in Westchester. There are, however, no amusement parks anywhere near Westchester, and the interest of such a big park vendor proves to me, like Central, proves to me that the park can make money. I think it has been poorly marketed. In fact, you know, I asked a lot of people, is Playland free to enter for Westchester residents? And they say no. Everybody thinks that you have to still pay to get in the park. And if people don't show up, it's not going to make money. So the advertising basically has been a waste. Why not have great bands? Why not create an aura of historical presence? How about educational components? The ideas are endless. That said, I want to express strongly I want to express my strong opposition to the idea that the park should just make money. I was actually, Mr. Astorino got me upset, and it's losing money, and this building is not making me money. I mean, so the park really doesn't have to make money. Playland should be an opportunity, although I think it can. Playland should be an opportunity for the county to give back to as many county taxpayers as possible and give us a tangible reason to pay county taxes and be a little happier about it. It's the best piece of land the county owns. I mean, I'm glad, I guess the legislature is going to vote on this. I'm glad Mr. Astorino is not just going to, implement the SPI. It's the crown jewel of Westchester. It really is. Playland has direct access from the parkway and should not disturb the neighbors. I mean, it's set up perfectly for that. They will appreciate a 2 to 3 month, the local neighbors would appreciate a 2 to 3 month parking, a park rather than an all-year sports center, I believe. Legislators should vote, or the people it should be put to a vote. I think it's that valuable that, I don't know if that's possible, but all Westchester County residents should enjoy this park. Let the professionals make it a real amusement park for all Westchester residents, young and old. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bailey Flood.
My name is Bailey Flood, and I'm here to speak on behalf of supporting SBI. I am the Assistant Director of Coaching for FC Westchester, which is a premier soccer club, and it serves all of Westchester County youth players. I actually serve on the girls' side, and we have 160 families on the female side and serve over 400 players from 18 down to 10 years old. I grew up playing soccer, and the benefit to having these sports facilities, right now everybody says it's a great idea, but not for here. There's nowhere else to go. That's why it's proposed here. Mount Vernon is packed. Every other sports facility is packed. With the winter, we haven't been able to get outdoors. We serve all of Westchester County players, so it's not, we have New Rochelle players, we have Mount Vernon players, so they are going to be benefiting in that. So when we say that we don't want to take away from the kids, it does take away from the kids. It directly impacts the kids, because right now we cannot start spring season because no fields are available. We're still indoors. We've had to cancel 2 weeks of practice because we have nowhere to play. With the parking, Playland only fills up 2 days out of the entire year. So for those 2 days, yes, it's going to be a struggle, and I'm pretty sure they said they're not even going to run things during those days. So parking's not really going to be an issue. And when we sit there and say that we don't want to hurt the kids. It does hurt the kids. So we do need to approve this because there's thousands of kids in need for this space and what sports do, not only for children, but females as a whole, and self-esteem, and being able to come and be on a team and have teamwork and learning so many other aspects other than the game. There's a need for not only the facility and the soccer side of it, but teams in general do so much to create the community. So I hope that you guys vote yes on this because there really, truly is a need, and that's why there's been so much struggle to play outdoors, and with this winter, everybody's been impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Douglas French. We should point out Mr. French is a former mayor of Rye. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for conducting this hearing. Welcome to all the Board of Legislators, and thank you for your public service. And welcome everybody here tonight, and special hello to my former councilperson, Catherine Parker. You know, Catherine and I were there at the very beginning, and not just the very beginning, but the very beginning. When the county executive first floated out the concept of maybe taking a fresh look at Playland, we had a meeting with County Legislator Judy Myers, Catherine, and Doug McKean and myself, and Doug had done a thesis back in the late 1970s about Playland. It was built in 1928 for the entertainment value back then. Westchester has changed completely. So this is an exciting time. This is a time to now look at, just like Ms. Flood just spoke about, sports leagues have doubled with female participation. This is a great opportunity for us. However, there are three asks that I would like to ask the board to consider. And I'll send under separate cover my comments. First is an advisory opinion. There are a lot of good comments and concerns about vetting this project. I don't think it's been done. Our expectation is that the board would welcome an advisory opinion from RISE boards and commissions or a consultant. I understand not for approval process, and I understand the precedent that would set, but an advisory opinion that looks at this project and raises and validates some of the concerns that have been raised. The field house is a perfect example. When SPI came before the RISE City Council to talk conceptually, it was understood that the field house wouldn't be any higher than the existing maintenance facility. It wouldn't be any wider than the existing 4 buildings. That just needs to be under consideration. Are there going to be changes to that so that it's consistent with what everybody brought into at the beginning, which was very broad and strong support for this concept of playing fields. We do need an indoor field house and all the other amenities. The second thing is traffic and pedestrian safety. You are changing the traffic pattern. There will be increased traffic 12 months of the year now into our city. We had talked about looking at Playland Parkway and funding crosswalks and traffic and pedestrian safety improvements on the existing roads. So that's the second thing. The third are municipal services. There will be an impact on RISE municipal services. And I'm not talking about property taxes, but the board should consider some kind of intermunicipal agreement that allows for an impact fee to pay back to the city any additional services that are asked for of the city. So those are the three things that I'd like you to consider. It is an exciting project, but I do think it needs to take that advisory opinion level so that there are professionals that are reporting back on the project. But I am in full support because this meets the vision that we had talked about of today's Westchester family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mary Beth Lubeck, and while Mary Beth is coming up, will Susan Totten, Kim Marquet, and Naomi Ottman please come down?
Good evening. I'm Mary Beth Lubeck, and my husband and I have lived in Rye for nearly 20 years. We have 3 children which attend the Rye schools. I have been an active member of the Rye community, serving as the Osborne School PO president, and am currently a board member of the high school PO. My husband has coached many Rye teams, including soccer and Little League Baseball, and we know firsthand the difficulties families face in Westchester regarding field space. We love and cherish Playland and Rye and the Edith Reed Sanctuary, and we agree with Rob Astorino and the Board of Legislators that changes need to be made to improve this valuable yet expensive asset in our county. We have been actively following the proposals over the past 2 years and attended several meetings and county discussions, including the big meeting at the county center. After careful thought, my husband and I support the SPI proposal. The families of Westchester County will benefit from the SPI proposal. My kids are in high school and sadly won't benefit from the increased field space and the sports house, but other kids will. And maybe my kids will work there someday. The new plan will provide fields for kids and year-round sports and increase employment in the county. These things are all desperately needed. I applaud the Board of Legislators for taking on this project and urge you to approve the SPI plan, which includes the field house and Playland sports. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Susan Totten.
Good evening to the Board of Legislators. Thank you so much for all that you take your time. I certainly think this is the right idea to have the public hearing to hear a chance to speak about their thoughts and concerns. As time goes on, I hear more and more of residents that do not agree with the field house. The petition has over 350 signatures now. About 3 weeks ago, I visited roughly 20 homes on Beck Avenue, my street. Mac Cunningham gave me the copies of Mac Sachs' letter and Playland info regarding the City of Rye's public information forum that was going to happen on February 25th. So I gave copies to everyone. One resident said for the SPI plan, maybe, not sure. One also, I also had to leave a few in the mailboxes, not home. But everyone else said, no field house, we don't want it. I honestly felt good hearing their thoughts, just like today. I strongly disagree for the field house and 2 outside fields in the middle of the parking lot. The amusement park belongs inside Playland, and all the cars belong in the parking lot.
Thank you, ma'am. Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kim Morquay. I'm president of Sustainable Playland. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Legislators and the Parks Committee for their work and for having a public hearing such as this. We had a walk around yesterday at Playland with the committee. It was very helpful. It was cold. It was bitterly cold, and it was 2 hours, so you should get hazard pay for that, by the way. But nonetheless, it was very good meeting, quite frankly, and I think that we benefited from it, SPI did, as well as the committee and the legislators. This is really referred to as the SPI plan, and you know, it's somewhat flattering because the SPI board that started almost 4 years ago at this point has put in a tremendous amount of commitment, energy, time, money, effort in putting together a plan, a vision, and bringing together professional operators for this proposal. But the reality of it is that this is a restoration plan. It's a park restoration plan. Playland, as we know, is this masterpiece of park, public park. It includes the amusement park on the waterfront. It includes many other elements, and of course with the Westchester Children's Museum, that's going to be a great addition, and the field house is an important component. The sports and rec is important in our view, because it brings year-round activation to the park. It will bring more amenities for Westchester County residents, and that's who the target market should be, is Westchester County residents. And it's a multi-year plan, it's a public-private partnership, and it's vitally important that we move forward, get Playland on the right track. We have a very strong team of operators, including the Field House and Playland Sports, but also Central Amusements, who's expert in their field, as well as American Skating, who is our proposed ice casino operator. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it very much. Look forward to continuing the process.
Thank you, sir. While Naomi comes up, we have two more cards. Forgive me, very elegant handwriting, but I cannot, is it Carlos? Meta? Or Mattis? Mejia, forgive me, please. All right, if Carlos Mejia would come down and Mark Walling would come down. Please, Naomi.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you for letting me speak. And I also want to say something that's a little bit off topic, but I want to thank all the county officers, from the county executive to the legislators, for opening up the park for the dogs and for extending it to April 21st. That being said, I am a lifelong Westchester County resident. I've lived in Yonkers, I've lived in Eastchester, Rye, and Harrison. Playland is a Westchester County park. It is not a Rye park. Most of the people that I've heard speaking today are talking about it from a Rye point of view. Everybody in Westchester County that pays property taxes, percentage of their property taxes go to Playland. Playland needs to be kept for the people of Westchester County. I know that Rye needs fields. That's been a known fact for years. But, you know, when White Plains needs fields, Katona, Mount Vernon, Austin, Tuckahoe, and I don't know where you're from, but when they need fields, they get their own fields. They don't go to Westchester County and say, Westchester County, we need fields for our people to play ball in. It's not Westchester County's problem. Westchester County's problem is to be responsible to all the citizens of Westchester County, and Playland is an amusement park that is a rite of passage for Westchester County, and you need to keep it as such. Now, with regards to the field house, I suggest all of you have library cards. There is a book on Playland at the Rye Free Reading Room that shows you pictures of what Playland was before Playland became. It's called Playland. Playland's a swamp. If you put a field house on there, it's a swamp. It's going to sink. And what are you going to do, Mr. Kaplowitz? I hate to call you out here, but 4 months ago there was a meeting on this floor, and you talked to Sustainable Playland, and you said, the parking's going to kill you. It was an eloquent speech you gave. But the reality is you need the parking, and you can't have people parking on the streets. Rye gives out $80 tickets after April 1st for parking on the streets. So, and do you want your constituents to sit here and say, oh, I went to Playland to go to Playland, there was no parking, I parked on the street, now I've got an $80 ticket. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have to do what's right for all of Westchester County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mejia.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak to you. I just made it from the city, ran here to get here. I think this is an important project that, you know, personally I have a lot to, you know, think of allowing this facility and Playland and Sustainable Playland to support, because I represent over 500 youth of all demographics from all over Westchester County, and one of our major struggles is providing, you know, a state-of-the-art facility for, especially over the winter time, where it becomes a struggle to support, you know, a quality program for our youth in the winter, because we do affect, you know, we do have the snow, and this is a prime example this past winter of, you know, a lot of the kids were sitting home and, you know, rather than playing and enjoying sport. It also goes in line with, you know, the county's mission on safer communities. I think our kids will have a benefit to, you know, with their downtime, to providing themselves a venue to keep their time busy and in a constructive manner rather than, you know, in other, you know, non-constructive mechanisms that they can get involved in. So I do think that, from a person that's lived in the county for 40 years, have played youth sports, have coached for over 20 years, I do think that the facility, Playland Sports, is something that the county will benefit from, and the youth of the county for many, many years in the future will have the use of it. So, I think it's a win-win for the county, the community, and even the people in Rye will have a state-of-the-art venue to house their youths. So I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mark?
Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. There's people that have spent more time on this project. There's people that are experts on the environment, construction, zoning, local politics, and regulations. I'm not. Consider myself an expert in kids. I have 3 kids. I've been coaching in Rye for over 10 years. Coach football, basketball, lacrosse. I live 2 blocks from the park. I walk my dog at the park every single night. We use it. We cherish it. The last thing I want is an eyesore. The last thing I want in my life is massive traffic for people using a new all-year-round facility. But what I do know is what currently is going on can't work. You've got a money-losing business that's ultimately costing the same taxpayers that we're all talking about protecting. You've got deteriorating foundations, which ultimately are going to get worse. There's no perfect solution to keep everybody in this room or everybody in this county happy. What I like about this proposal is it's got a little bit of everything. It gives the communities and the kids across the county incremental field space, which is needed. We've got a problem in our society of too many kids on their phones, in their basements, on their computers, and not playing sports. We have issues with field space which eliminate our ability to get our kids up off the couch, off the computer, and doing something that's healthy, which people have talked about today. Not only from a skill perspective, much more important from a development perspective, teamwork and all of those positive things. I cannot tell you the role sports has had in my life or many of my friends' lives and what I wanted to do for my children. We need the facility. We're not saying knock down the park, get rid of the rides, the hell with the environment, let's just build a sports facility. They're trying to weave it in a scenario that works. Perhaps it's not the most picturesque solution, but it's one that makes sense. It's one that when I'm walking my dog at night, I don't look at a desolate parking lot with nothing going on 10 months of the year. So I'm not proposing that there's no issues, simply saying, let's look at the positives. You give kids a healthy, positive environment. I'm sure there's things we could work at. Someone spoke about discounts for certain municipalities to use it that don't necessarily have the funding, making sure it's not just for elite sports where people can pay the fee. Figure out a way to make it altruistic, figure out a way to make it for the community, but there's no downside to having kids in an increasingly obese society not having a place to play. We have a situation where you can protect a lot of the park, you can have the indoor facility, you can use it year-round, and I think that's all worthwhile. So I'm supportive of it, and that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. At this juncture, I have no more cards. So before I entertain a motion to close, just would like to say a couple things. First, I want to thank our police officers from the Department of Public Safety. We're very proud of the police force here in Westchester County. They do a fabulous job. Gentlemen, thank you. Want to thank the Board of Legislators staff who stayed late tonight. You should know they don't get paid overtime. They work incredibly hard. They multitask. We're very lucky to have them as well. And finally, I want to thank everyone from the public for joining us in this public hearing, because your input is so important to the decisions that we make, and especially the young people who are here tonight. I know some have left, but please thank them for me. That was really exciting to see so many young people taking ownership of an issue. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor? Aye. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Sheila.